Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all the different time zones that are watching. This is there's good and bad to these webinars and COVID. The good is we can get speakers from all over. The bad is we miss out on the networking and sharing a drink with folks and just chit-chatting. So thanks to the Swiss Oracle user community and Oracle Groundbreakers for having me. Today, I'm going to be talking about leveraging Apex to manage your database environments. Let's get into this. A little bit about me. Here's, again, ways to contact me. I have my blog there. I'll put this in a PDF and share that with everyone that you guys can get to it. Importantly, there's a couple things that, like Julian and everyone else, I'm also a user group leader, and I host a monthly meeting with the Southeast Michigan Oracle professionals every second Tuesday of every month. And like last month, we had Dan Morgan talking about security. And next month, we're going to be talking about migrating a 100 terabyte database from in a short time frame. So on, I think it's November 9th at 6:30 p.m. Unfortunately, it's later, it's 6:30 p.m., but I also post that on our Southeast Michigan YouTube page. So if you care to join, that's information. And more importantly is next week, our user group, Michigan Oracle User Summit, has a big show, 58 presentations, 25 or 28, I forget what it is now, Oracle ACE and ACE directors. We have probably about 10 or 12 presentations from Oracle, including Roy Swanger, the VPs for EBS and for Apex. So it's a great show. And the cost is, you can't beat the cost. It's $35 US. And with all the presentations, it amounts to about $1.43 US per webinar if you wanted to see them all. So the way to register is www.mouse.us, and I'll be talking about that a little bit more. As Julian and the other speakers, I'm also an Oracle ACE, and I work for a company called Xyon. It's a great company. I just started working there. They're giving me the opportunity to present today, so I want to thank them. And this is my only slide for that, and that's xionsolutions.com. I've been having a lot of fun with them. It's been a great opportunity, and I've been working with some great folks like Dan Morgan. If you guys ever use Morgan's library, I really recommend it. It's got some great ways to use commands and stuff, great information. Been working with Rick Van Dyke, who's fantastic with optimization and tuning. So anyway, thank you to Xyon, and I've been just having a ball working there. A little bit about me. Besides being a DBA for many years, I started with actually version 4, so it goes back way too many years. Like many DBAs, I spent way too much time in my chair. I spent literally 8 to 9 hours, and it seems like my glasses need more and more better prescriptions because of the staring at screens all day long. So I like to get out and go fishing. I also like to backpack and hike. So I've been hiking quite a bit, like 2 or 3 times a year, and just get outside, just get away from the darn chair. It just refreshes your mind and everything else. So I encourage everyone to get out and do something else besides staring at a screen. It's just, I don't think we were made to sit in front of a screen for this long, really. So this is called Safe Harbor, but just some things to note. Like Julian, I am not a developer. So I'm a very beginner with Apex. I've learned from some great folks. There's a lot of great YouTube pages. There's great webinars on it. So I'm a beginner. I'm very much of a beginner. My hope is that you take this and you can use it right away. The way I grade webinars is if I can take information that I learned and apply it right away without any additional cost. That's great. That's a great presentation. If I can go to many webinars and learn something and take that home, that's great. This stuff that I'm going to present today is more of just a tool in your toolkit, for lack of a. As DBAs, we have a lot of things going on, and we want to have some tools to manage and to work on your database. And then I'm sure other people have different opinions on how I did things or things like that. So again, apologize if for you Apex gurus out there, if I'm not doing things right. I'm always looking for advice because I'm brand new at it, but I really encourage people to get into Apex. I want to get into some philosophies that to follow when you get into this, and that I follow that really help me out really quickly. Number one is just get started on it and learn as you go. If you start to think about like the outcome before you even start, I think you've already defeated yourself. Just get started and learn as you go. You're going to make mistakes. Number one, if you're brand new, if you're a DBA and using Apex, you're going to make mistakes. Don't worry about it. Apex is very forgiving. And then as you get going on it, it's going to generate some momentum. And then that energy keeps you going. In fact, to tell you a little story, I did this as a DBA using Apex. I thought this was really great. I then took it and I said, wow, what if I was to take my, my checkbook and plug this in and actually kind of do some managing of my higher level checkbook. And it was like I got this momentum going, and all of a sudden I'm spending at midnight, I'm still working on my checkbook. So what you'll do is as you work on it, it'll energize and you'll keep on going if you're anything like me. One thing that I did find out is there's a lot of detail when you start getting into the data. All of a sudden, things that you think is common and should be shown this way or shown that way is not what you think it is. So prepare for some details that you're not going to be prepared for. That's okay. There's always the devil's in the detail. I can't stress this enough. Keep it simple. Don't go too crazy. You'll see in some of my tables that I'm not doing third normal form and all that kind of stuff, but I'm trying to make it easier for me to be able to pull data back and everything else. So, and I'm not talking about a billion rows of table, of data. So just keep it simple is what I would really advise you to do. And the last thing is don't kick me. I'm not sure if people know what that means, but it's very simple. If you keep it complicated to keep you employed, that's kick me. Keeping it complicated keeps me employed. Don't do that, please, because you're going to end up like the string of networking in India. I was in India prior to COVID, and I was driving by and I saw this telephone pole, and first thing I thought is, oh my God, the network folks got to be brilliant to be able to figure out how to get data from point A to point B here. They probably don't use wire, probably, but anyway. Don't make it too complicated just to think you're going to be keep you employed. Don't do a kick me. So today's presentation is more this is going to provide a toolkit for you to get information and to understand your database environment better. We have OEM, we have scripts, we have all these other things. This is not to replace those. So I want to make this clear. This Apex application I'm showing you is not to replace OEM, but it's to enhance it, to make it more interactive, to be able to pass to higher levels of management and to make decisions. That's what this tool is about. It's not about replacing anything. It's just an addition to. So please look at it this way. And the best part about it is it's free. I mean, you can go now to Oracle Cloud and get Apex for free. As long as you keep on, utilizing it, you have it. So the important thing, this is my second or third time giving the presentation. And one thing the critique I've gotten back from everyone is, hey, just get to the demo because we know how to build Apex. We, kind of know what Apex is. I'm not here to teach you Apex. What I'm here to say is go out, learn Apex, and you can do it yourself. It's very simple. If me, a DBA, can do it, anyone can do it. And like Julian's using it for REST APIs, there's a lot of advantages to using Apex. So don't just say that it's a developer tool. It can be used for your stuff as well. So I'm going to be talking about a couple of things just to set it up, but I want to focus on the demo. Here's some very basic Apex stuff. It's basically free. Anyone can use it. There's no limit on who can use it. It's supported on all database versions, and now it's always on the always free portion of it. So there's no excuse for it. By the way, I've set this up on the always free. I've also used Docker. In fact, the presentation I'm giving you today is from Docker. I did have one in the always free cloud, but I did not use it and it got erased. So I had a backup, which was on Docker. But you can use on Docker, VirtualBox, but it's very simple. And the best part is you can have different modes. You can make it desktop, you can make it mobile, you can create reports and visualize it. And then everything as a DBA, your SQL, everything that you've learned can be utilized to manage Apex. So, that's the basics of it. And lastly, here are some components, just some of the components I used, which is reports, forms, charts, calendars, dynamic actions, and processes. That's all I'm going to cover about Apex. If you want to learn more about it, there's a lot of websites and a lot of things about using Apex, but what I want to show you here is the actual tool. So before I do, here's some questions I'm sure you have been asked before, and if you haven't, then I'm sure you would be. So what's in it for us? Why would we use it? Well, number one, it's easy for ad hoc reporting and updates. So if you wanted to update some information about a database, like metadata, you could do that here. It simplifies some of your routines that you do on a normal basis. For example, if anything like me, you put a lot of information either on OEM reports or put it in spreadsheets. So this kind of removes that need. It's easier to manage than a lot of apps. This is really easy to use. It's very simple. And the nice part is pictures tell the story. A spreadsheet does not tell a story, but these pictures do. And what I would have said, I started off small and then I kind of worked up. So just start with the core things going on. So here are some of the questions I'm sure you get asked. How many databases do you have in your system? 19. How many non-supported, how many non-19 databases do you have? How many PDBs are you currently utilizing? Are you using multi-tenant? How much total storage are you using? All these questions, I'm sure you've been asked at one point or another, or that you've wondered about as well. And you have to go to OEM, you have to go to your spreadsheets, you have to go to SQL, blah, blah, blah. So these are questions I'm sure you've been asked. How many CPUs are you using? So those are some basic questions, but then when you have performance things, there's, hey, what day of the week or hour do you see the highest logical IO? Do you folks know, as a DBA, the answer to that question? I didn't know until I set this up. What's your highest physical IO? Highest CPU by the day or the week? And by the way, do you have a calendar for your long-term backups and patching schedules? I set ours up in OEM. Well, I would see the jobs and stuff, but I didn't really have a calendar, like a picture calendar to kind of see. And then what day of the week or hour is your system's busiest day? Again, stuff I didn't know before I developed this application. So all these questions here will be answered by this app that I created, because I knew these were questions that have been asked before, and I never knew the answers until I had to do some research. So, how are you managing now? You're probably using spreadsheets, I'm sure. I'm sure you're using SQL scripts. I do. And in fact, a lot of the scripts I copied from, SQL and put into Apex. So you can take SQL and put it into Apex. Same with PL SQL. Using OEM. I use a ton of OEM reports. They're great. I'm not dissing OEM reports. I use them all the time. But again, I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more interaction. So you probably use a combination of all three. If you're anything like me and have been a DBA for a long time, and you have a large footprint, a lot of databases, you're probably using a combination of all three to manage your databases. So the nice part about this is it's all into one thing. So here was a problem statement. I had many databases, probably almost near 200 by the time I got done. We had over 300 machines. I had at least 4 spreadsheets owned by different folks. Multiple, and the other thing was I needed multiple people to be able to see it. So if I would send a spreadsheet, I'd always have to worry, is it the right version? Or if I set up OEM reports, can that person see that OEM report? Do they have access to it? They can't log into SQL. They don't know SQL. So, I'd have to run it myself. So the idea is I wanted to create something that, that many folks, many levels could see. And lastly, I wanted requirements so that people can generate their own reports, basically. So on top of that, I had some reporting requirements, which were the following. I wanted to record CPU, memory, OS, some of the basic stuff, whether it's dev. The important thing here as well, besides this machine requirements, is the OVM name. We use OVM all the time. We create virtual, things on our PCA and Exadata. So I wanted to know the OVM because it's very important. A little bit later on, you'll notice that sometimes in OVM and even VMware, you get noisy neighbors. This helped understand noisy neighbor syndrome. Database information. I wanted to know the SGA, the database name, if there was containers, table space, and application information. I wanted to know backup information. When were backups being done? What database name? What life cycle? Included on this list, by the way, I wanted to know the OVM name because, again, a lot of times when I'd have some big backups, and even though they're in different OVM or different machines, they're in the same virtual node, and they would cause problems because even though they're different machines, they're still in the same virtual node. And then lastly, the last thing I did, I wanted to use, I needed to know performance stuff. So I grabbed some scripts from Craig at Orapub, and he had some top SQL scripts that I grabbed: the time of the snapshot, physical IO, logical, CPU, etc., SQL ID. So I started with the data collection. I started with spreadsheets. Now, what I'm going to show you here, let's see if I can, I don't know if you guys see my screen, probably not, right?
We see the PowerPoint slide still.
Yep. So how about now? Can you see the presentation, the spreadsheet? Oh, sorry, hold on, I got to press here. Yep, one sec. Okay, you should see the, okay. So this was one spreadsheet I had to collect all the data. You can see the machine name, memory, all that kind of stuff. And it has a lot of information on here. And then some other databases. I had another tab that did summary for CPU, how much CPUs I was using. We got audited and we needed to know how many CPUs we were using. So I created this spreadsheet for that. And then last, I created a spreadsheet for all my backups to know when the backups were being ran, what day of the week, what time, etc. So you can see here that I had, these are just two of probably 5 or 6 spreadsheets that I had. Let me go back to my presentation. Oops, sorry. So you can see the presentation again?
Yes, all good.
Good. I took all those spreadsheets, and using Apex, you can import those very simply. It's just basically a one button click, and it creates tables for you. I created database links because now I had all these. What I didn't want to have to do is re-import data through the spreadsheets all the time. So I wanted to keep it fresh. So I created database links to other databases using for table space information, ASH, and all that kind of stuff. So I did have a database, the ability to create database links for this. I also had a shell script that I put in the cron jobs to gather backup information because a lot of them were run via backups. And then the other thing I had is some Python scripts to grab OS information because I had a lot of SQL scripts, but I didn't have a lot of OS information, such as the machine version number and things of that nature. And then last, again, I used OEM metadata. So I took some metadata that was in OEM, and I was able to create a database link to pull that information in to my report, into my Apex application. So I created a central database with all this information. I created database links. I created SSH keys between everything. I had Python scripts, shell scripts, cron jobs, and this is kind of what it looked like. So I had a central database. I had all this information coming into the central database, and then it pumped it into Apex so that we can do reporting. So real quickly, phase 1 is I just created the tables to hold all this information. I created the SSH keys, created the links. One thing I did is go to method 5. If you've ever heard of method 5, they give you ideas on how to manage databases and pull back John. So I created passwordless database links, so I didn't have to worry about security. That was very important. It's the same with the performance scripts I got from Craig at Orapub. Do this real quick. I basically created shell scripts and stuff to grab this information, enabled cron jobs to gather that information, some other information, and then basically generated reports. All this these 2 slides took 1 week I waited 1 week so that I could get some good data. I didn't want to just take it to gather like performance stuff. So I wanted to wait at least 1 week. And then phase 2 was develop the reports. Basically, these reports you'll see in a minute. So that took about 2 to 3 weeks of development time. Not really long, but enough. So let's get to the demo because that's really where the power is. Okay, let's go back. Sorry. So here is my application. Let's start with the database home. Here are all the information I have. I have a list of other databases, PDBs, backup report, patching schedule. I have utilization. You guys can see this, right? This report?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Table space, and then I start getting into some performance stuff. So let's start with the very basic stuff. Remember that spreadsheet I showed you? Well, here is what it looks like. Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Here's what it looks like in Apex. So I just took it, pumped it into Apex, and this is kind of what you saw in that spreadsheet. Now the cool thing is you can create follow-throughs. So for example, if I want to know more information on this database, I can click on and go, oh, there's 4 PDBs in here. So this is very helpful there. I know the IP address. I know one thing we have, and I'm sure with, I have many people around the globe here going to be looking at this, but you have different time zones. A lot of people set UTC, some people set CST. So I realized real quickly that I needed to track that, because when you're trying to do backups or reports, and someone says, I want to run this at 10 a.m., you got to know if it's 10 a.m. Central Time or, you know, what time they want this run. So that was information I gathered from those shell scripts that I created. I keep on hitting the wrong button here, sorry. And then the machine memory as well. So you got database memory. I also have prod. Now, the nice part about Apex, I'll show you this just kind of one time, is you can kind of filter this data. And you can do a lot of things. So you can filter it and say, I only want to see certain things, or you can sort it. So let's say I want to sort, remember I mentioned sorting it by compute node. So let's say I want to sort by virtualization host. Bam, here, so now I have all this, the virtualization host. Now I want to say, you know what, I want to aggregate I want to do a control break at each one. So I want to, whenever virtualization changes the name, I want a break. So you can see there's a break. Now we have a lot of people say, well, how much memory is this virtualization host, this OVM, this compute node, I mean, using? Because each one of these are a OVM right here. This is all part of one compute node. If you use Exadata or PCA or ODA. Now I want to say, I want to aggregate some data. I want to, I don't want to do virtualization. What I want to do is, let's say, I want to know how much CPU per compute node I'm using. So right now, just by clicking a few buttons, I'm able to see how much CPU core is being used for that particular OVM. Again, the nice part about this is any user can do this. And once I have it saved as me, as my user, it's saved, nobody else, you know, it's saved for me. And so next time I come in, it's going to look just like this. So it's very customizable. It also has things like charts. You can create charts, all kinds of charts based on this screen. Just like, sort of like spreadsheet, but a little, I thought a little bit easier to use than spreadsheets. But they're the same thing as you can save the report, and then you can also download it. You have choices. You can do CSV, you can do HTML, you can do PDF, Excel, whatever you want, and then send it as an email if you want. Again, any user at any level can do this. So it's not like you have to worry about, you know, different levels of management to look at that. So this was that first spreadsheet that I showed you showing the databases. The next one I did is I said, listen, I want to know all the PDBs, you know, because I want to know, number one, what their application does and what they do. I also want to know the PDB name. I want to know amount of database memory that was allocated, SGA, and I want to know the version. And so I kind of put this together just for some of these kind of this information for the application notes. In fact, the previous screen actually calls this particular screen to get the information. Now, remember I showed you that the spreadsheet for backups. Okay, I took that and put it in here. The devil's in the details is where this kind of worked out, because I was trying to get the day of the week, and I had to do a lot of manipulation to figure out how I was going to get the day of the week. And the other thing was backups were on different machines using different time zones. Okay, so how do I, if I show 10 a.m., how do I know if it's, what time zone? So I converted everything to Eastern time. You can convert this into UTC as well. But those are some of the details I had to work through to get this done. But you can kind of see like the information. You can see that the host name, the virtualization host. One thing that's very important about this is I mentioned noisy neighbors. If you have a large database and you're doing full backups at the same time in their same compute node, I'm sure you're going to get some slowdown at that time. So I was able to kind of generate this report and go, oh, wait a minute, I may have to move the backup to a different time so it doesn't affect other things. You can also sort this. Like I said, it's just like a spreadsheet, so I can sort this by ascending or descending. Nulls obviously came through, go to the top, but for example, this is the big one. It takes 1,500 minutes to do a backup. It takes a long time. So that was something I knew that was, so you can kind of see the backup times. And these backup times were from, remember, they were from the spreadsheet. So what I did is I kind of took an average. I went in via SQL and took the average. So this is the spreadsheet stuff. And then I also said, listen, I want to put this as a picture, right? Spreadsheets are great. But once you see a picture, all of a sudden, man, everything just kind of comes into full focus. What you can see here is I put down not only patching, but also backups. So here, for example, here's some long-term backups on Monday. And same with, monthly backups. What this showed me was, wait a minute, I have patching the same weekend that I am doing this long-term backup. Hold on here. When they do patching, they shut down the database. I can't do a backup if the database is shut down, right? This report, this actually showed me that said, I have to notify the customer to say, we're going to do the long-term backup at a different day because patching was going on this weekend and I could not do I could not do long-term backups. So the benefit to this kind of picture in Apex was all of a sudden I saw things where they were kind of running into each other, complications, issues. You can also do a list. You can do a list by day and things of that nature. So you have choices to create these calendars. Again, this is a benefit that you cannot necessarily get from an Apex or from an OEM report or even SQL report. So this right away, if you can tell right away that this patching is going to be affecting this long-term backup. Again, it was very clear and noticeable. I'm going to show you some of the more other stuff I took in like a report type level. Then I'm going to show you the end. I'm going to save the end for the cool stuff. Here I also start gathering table space. Now I didn't have this in spreadsheets. I actually used OEM, a combination of OEM and SQL to find out all the table spaces. So this is all my databases and all the table spaces, including system and everything else. So you can see, I can click on any one of these to find out the highest or lowest. Sorry. You see, which is the table space is using the most, how much percent used, I can sort on that. It's a great way to be able to, if someone says, well, how much data is this actual database using? I can say, okay, well, I can sort on DB name. And then I want to actually aggregate, say, total allocated. And then what I want to also do is control break on database name. So, oh, I don't know what happened here. Click that, right? I think it did it at the very end. Anyway, you can sort by the, I'm probably pressing the wrong buttons here, but anyway, you can sort on different ways to do this and aggregate data. So probably not clicking. Again, I'm not a developer. I'm not an Apex guru, so I'm still learning the ropes here, so to speak. Then I said, well, I want to know how much space is used by machine. So I was able to pump this into by OVM to know these 4 machines. So I can just click on this and find out, okay, there's a PDB called that. And here's all the table spaces for that particular, CDB. So the CDB is called that name, and here are all the PDBs in here. So now I can see all the PDBs. Again, you can basically do a control break based on PDB name. There you go. So now you can see all the table space, and then you can also sum it up. So again, this is stuff you can do in spreadsheets and stuff, but not as easy as the point and click kind of stuff. So if you notice, I was able to just kind of click down and, find out information, which is nice. Then I said I found another script to be able to do table space predictions and figure out when I needed to add space. And again, this was just on the web. I think I got it from Tim Hall. And I incorporated that in here. And by doing that, I was able to find that some of these table spaces, based on the growth, need more space. So you can use this as a way to do some planning for space, for planning your space. And then lastly, this was the key. I said, this is great. All that stuff, the table space stuff, the backups are pretty much static, right? What I want to do now is say, I want to know performance. I want to know like what's going on performance-wise. So I created basically a job on each one of the machines that run every, I think, 10 minutes that pumps data back into the Apex database. And I wanted to know elapsed time, CPU time of all jobs running. I used Craig Schallenhammer's top CPU or top.SQL script to do it. So thank you to Craig. So by clicking on these drop downs, I can go, okay, on this particular machine, I had a lot of jobs running. And it's broken down by day here, you can see. And you can kind of see what is being utilized. So again, I can sort by executions, I can sort by physical IO, CPU time, rows processed, let's say. Oh, let's go the wrong way there. So I can see, hey, what's going on with this particular job? And then I can say, this happened on Saturday. So my upload was on Saturday. And I can find out the SQL ID, the SQL address, and then go back and figure out what it is. I didn't put the entire SQL statement, as you know, because it can be quite large. But I also put the load and what time that I, found this. The details on this is you realize that some jobs run for multiple hours, so you'll see the same job running for multiple hours. Then also you can, okay, that was by machine. Now this is by database. Okay, the previous dropdown was by the whole machine. This is actually by database. So you can actually, see different information based on just on the database itself. What user was causing the problem, things of that nature. CPU minutes. So I said, oh, that's just great. These reports are really good. I can do a lot of aggregates. I can do a lot of sorting. And the great thing is these reports can be sent to just about anybody. But I said, you know what? I really would like to take this to the next level and create some nice charts. So they have ways to do this. And I said, okay, let's see how much RAM is allocated per OVM. Again, this is per compute node, and versus how much allocated databases do I have? And what I noticed here was that a lot of them had plenty of space. So I allocated a total of like, say, 85 GB on this particular compute node, but I had 252 allocated. But look at here, I only had 63 allocated total, and I was allocating 40 GB of it. That's something right away I saw that and I go, hey, listen, I'm going to have to up that compute node to a higher number, because I'm going to, the next database, or even, we could have some performance issues. So I thought this graph alone was a way so I could go back to the Exadata folks and say, hey, listen, that particular compute node needs more, RAM for the databases coming in. Sorry. So now you see the next one was how many data VMs per compute node. And this is this again, I'm basing on a compute node because of noisy neighbors and stuff like that. Each one has shows a number, and then I can actually have drill down. So like this one has 4, I can drill down and say, okay, which ones are they? And here are the different databases per machine. Okay, so that's utilization. That's VM, OVM utilization. And I thought, okay, I want to see performance now. Remember those questions I asked? What's the biggest day I'm using physical logical I/O? By creating these charts, I was able to create per day. I was able to find out what day was using up the most physical I/O, not only the calendar day, but also the day of the week. And obviously Sunday was the number 1 for physical I/O. And if you think about it, that's when most of the backups were being ran, right? And again, I can drill down to find out what systems are doing that. Then I wanted logical I/O, because a lot of times physical I/O doesn't really tell the whole story, but once you see logical I/O, it's different. Now, you notice like the amount that was the highest was physical on Sunday. It was still high on Sunday, but look at all these other days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Had a lot of logical I/Os going on, which means that they're spinning for creating SQL and stuff. So you might want to go through and check some of these queries. Again, this picture, if I didn't have this picture, I would not know it based on a SQL script, or even OEM script, or even OEM for that matter. And then last is the number of CPU minutes per day. Now here you see Saturday is the day. So again, I could click on it and go deeper into that. And I said, okay, that's great. It tells me the day per week. That's super. Now I want, I start, it's kind of like a sand trap. You kind of get stuck and you keep on going deeper and deeper. Then all of a sudden I start saying, well, what is it per hour? Just overall. I realized that at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when I have the most physical I/O. Now, again, this is every day. So this is a combination of every day. But you can see that at 1 o'clock in the afternoon is the day with the highest. The logical I/O is actually at 10 o'clock. Again, you learn a lot about your systems just by looking at these charts. And then last is the CPU per minute. So that's what I developed so far. I don't know if there's any, let me look, see if there's any questions before I go to finish off here. The question was, is there any, is the application available for download? Not yet, but I'm putting it on GitHub, and that way you guys can all download it. And I'll put some demo data out there. So again, a lot of the stuff was taken from spreadsheets, so it's pretty easy to do. So that being said, let's go back to the presentation and some of the future enhancements. So one thing, I've been working with Craig Shallenhammer on doing machine learning. And now I can take the data that I've learned from the GDAL or sysmetric data and pump that in there. What that will allow me to do is see any kind of anomalies based on sysmetric data that, that maybe I need to address and take a look at. I need a better way to do collection of data. Right now I'm using cron jobs and I'm using, SQL and that kind of stuff. So I'm looking at using something like DBMS jobs or something, or Ansible to pull a lot of this stuff back. I want to gather ASR and AWR report. Obviously, it's only going to work for enterprise. With all this data, it's great. It's super. But now what I wanted to do to take this to the next level is actually pull in ticket data and see if there's any correlation to high performance stuff and ticket data. Is something happening on the same day every week that's causing this problem? I have all the data. Oops, sorry, let me go back. I have all the data. I just have to put it in here and kind of figure it out. And so that I can do some correlation. And then lastly, I need to move it to GitHub because I lost my my demo on cloud because I wasn't using it. Cloud is great and it's free, but if you don't use it, they take it away from you. So I'm going to move it to GitHub so that other people can use it and share the data. I can send you some scripts if you need to create the scripts, the SQL scripts to create it if you want. Just send me an email and I'll forward that to you. I think this will take about 3 to 4 weeks of development time. Then to just kind of finish up, it's use Apex. It's very low code, simple to use. It's free. It's part of Oracle Cloud, easy to set up. I would encourage, Julian had mentioned creating it at the CDB level. I had some problems at the CDB level. I'm not saying one is better than the other or one's right or wrong. I did have some issues with the CDB level. So I start using, as recommended, put at the PDB level versus the CDB level. Again, that's your choice. But setting it at the PDB level, I was able to have multiple versions of Apex, and there's advantages both ways. So I'm not saying it's bad or good. It's just different. And then by setting up Apex, I don't have to worry about creating all these different reports for middle managers who are asking questions: how many CPU, how many databases are we using, etc. I can forward this report to just about any level of staff. Obviously, except for the executive level, they may not want to see it, but I can send this out, and I can send this to other groups. I can send it to Linux team, I can send it to OS team, etc. So it's very SQL REST friendly. So if you wanted to embed REST into it, like Julian had earlier, this is perfect for it. We can run this on desktop and mobile, and it's a great proof of concept tool. I set this whole thing up in a day or two and then showed it to my management in a day or two. And then that allowed me to do other things. So here's some of my resources. I'll just kind of highlight this. I'll put this, it's in my slide presentation, but apex.oracle.com to find out more information to learn. Also, Orapub, he's got some great scripts. Method5.github.io, a great tool. And then lastly, I want to mention before we go, next week, we have a big show, Monday through Thursday. We have 2 tracks per day, and then on Thursday, we have 3 tracks. It includes Apex, it includes EBS, it includes tuning, optimization, includes machine learning. So we have 58 presentations. Go to this website, look at the agenda. I'm sure you're going to find something that you'll like there. And for $35 US, that's a great price. You're not going to find anything that cheap. If you wait till Monday, it goes up to $50. Still not bad, but you may want to get in on it early. So I want to thank the Swiss OUC and Groundbreakers for having me. Again, here's my information, my Xyon Solutions, and my other email. You can contact me at LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. And that's all I got. Let me look to see if there's any additional questions. Hopefully I didn't go too long. Okay, about right time. I answered the question about the demo. Is there a new question?
Yes, there is another one that come from your answer. They actually ask the URL of the GitHub repository where you will upload the app once done.
Yeah, it's I think it's mjgangler.github.io, I think. I have to look. I haven't been on there in a couple weeks, so but I think it's mjgangler.github. Let me type that in there. If it's not, I will, you know what I'll do is I'll update the presentation with my GitHub, and then you guys can check that. How's that sound? But I think this is it. Sorry, I'm a DBA, and I have a lot of things in my head, and I forget a lot of things as well. So, anyway, thank you for having me, and I hope you guys, as DBAs, go out and try to set up a POC. Take some of your spreadsheets and pump it in there, and then do some of these reports. You'll see. I got into a thing, it just kept on building momentum. And it's like, oh, what about this report? And oh, what about that report? It's a great tool for that. And you don't have to be an Apex guru. And I'm sure I did things probably not what an Apex guru would do. But I mean, as Julian said, it's a tool that you can use as a DBA. Use this as a tool in your toolkit. It has some great advantages. And so thank you again for having me. And if there's no other questions, I think Liran will speak in about 10 minutes here.
It's exactly that, yes. So thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you. And I'll send you the presentation with the GitHub information on there. Perfect.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And it was great to have you here virtually. As you said at the beginning, the benefit of this pandemic things is that you can more easily present somewhere else.
Yeah, I tell you, the graphs that you saw, I showed that to the Exadata folks, and they were like, "Oh my God!" And a couple things happened. Number one, they didn't realize how much they over allocated some memory, and then other ones they go, "Man, I under allocated memory," And it was like, once they saw the graph, it was like, it told the whole picture. Same with the backup, the calendar. I showed management that. I said, look at, we're doing backups the time we're doing patching. That's not going to work. And what happened is we were missing long-term retention backups because we were shutting down for patching. We did not know that. So that helps.
It's true that visually seeing things tell you a lot more than just seeing a list of numbers, a table or something like that. So many people still just export from SQL Developer, put in Excel, make a little chart on it, but that's not the DBA. The DBA just look at numbers and in the result of the query say, yeah, I'm good.
This sells a lot of things. You can make a lot of points and a lot of you can kind of how do I say, share what you're learning, and it just expands the mind to folks who you're sharing this with, and especially management. They all of a sudden they realize what's going on Sunday, or what's going on Tuesday. Why is this such a why are we getting so much logical I/O? It generates more questions, and so. Again, if you only have 5 databases, this tool is probably, it's great and it'll help you. This is really made for, like in my environment, I have 300-400 databases. This really helps with that. How many people just are monitoring one database anyway? Come on, we're DBA, not only doing multiple but different too, SQL and all that kind of stuff.
I say that, yes, I mean, databases increase in numbers because it's easier now to just have many of them, and also licensing for companies made it easier to just keep adding databases. And
by the way, like this can be used by hybrid too. So if you have a lot of databases on the cloud, you can pull that database in here, or put the Apex in cloud and pull the database, the information from there into the cloud as well. So this helps on multiple. One of the things we did recently is we had databases in the cloud, so I was able to pull data from that into this application, database application. So it was, you know, again, you can do a hybrid if you need to. And also, by the way, if you have things like, my next step was moving SQL in here, Microsoft SQL.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can collect data,
yeah,
then of course Apex will not care about where they come from. It will just display it and.
Yeah. So I really encourage DBAs, if you're watching this presentation, go out, try Apex. It's easy to use, and I'm telling you what, the benefit, you'll notice the benefits right away. It's kind of like and the best part is you can use Ansible, you can use Python, you know, you can use all the tools and use Apex. So it's a good part of your toolbox. So thank you.